You're going to have to lead this one, because I am not a Gnomeite. Have you messed around with Gnome 3 yet?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
I've messed around a little bit with Unity, though.
What's the main difference between Unity and Gnome 3, out of curiosity? Unity's based on it, isn't it? Or
No, as I actually understand it, it's more the other way around, that Unity had a lot of things, and then Gnome 3 started implementing those things.
okay.
I mean, the GNOME shell came first, but it wasn't really a solid idea until Unity came and did some things, and then GNOME shell started doing those things. So, as I understand it, it is largely the other way around.
I screwed around with it a little bit before it officially came out, and I was seeing basically with GNOME 3, it was less customizable than GNOME had historically been. And
Yeah.
the number one complaint, the number one complaint I'm getting out of people who have messed with it is, I am almost thinking there's a forking fixing to go on in GNOME, because they're unhappy that it isn't as customizable, and apparently that is where they went for.
And Unity is really working to be customizable, but there is still some things that I mean, the basic look of your desktop with the Unity bar on the side is kind of something that it is being forced to keep. You can't move the bar around because that's how the desktop works. It works with it being on that side, which it does put a lot of restriction. You know, if you've seen the kind of crazy desktops that people have nowadays.
Oh no! If you want to see this truly how customizable Linux can be, you know, just start Googling or YouTubing for custom desktop, and people go nuts.
It can be crazy. And those things, Unity or GNOME shell, that's not necessarily possible. You can customize it. And you can customize it much better than Mac, and you can customize it much better than Windows. But it's not what Linux users have been previously capable of, and that's why.
And this is something a lot of Linux users have gotten used to. The idea of, if I want a button there that does that, I put a button there that does that. If I want this, then I want. It's like, I'm doing this type of work, so I'm going to set this user up entirely like this, so the whole desktop just seamlessly integrates around how my absurd mind thinks, and it's not in my way. It's just an augmentation of my natural workflow. And when you break that, you're forcing the user to adapt to the platform rather than letting the platform entirely adapt to the user if the user so wishes.
Anyways.
Yeah, that's what most people are used to, but that's not what a good number of Linux users have been used to. A good number of Linux users have gotten very used to the idea of, it's my computer, it does what I say, how I want to do it. And no matter what you pick, you will never get that right for everybody. So the fact that that customization existed for people who wanted to do things entirely different, for no other reason than it was how their demented little mind thought, well, it was the computer for them, because it was the computer for them. And I think GNOME seriously underestimates how much of a value that was. Because, I mean, these users who really went and customized stuff, no two of them agreed on what the right way to customize stuff was. Literally. They would go, well, your desktop's wrong, but mine's right. And the true multi-user experience of a Linux box, one of the good things about that was, if you wanted to, you could have 8 people in a house, and every single one of them could have a user account on that computer that had an entirely different user experience. Everything could be in an entirely different place, entirely different, and the computer could handle it. It wouldn't work. That's no longer true. They have to all lower themselves to the common denominator as limited by the software, and that's an entirely different UI for a lot of them. So, do you think I'm blowing this problem out of proportion, or do you think it's going to piss a lot of people off?
I think that, I don't know. We're still, I mean, we're always going to have, maybe it just will be that real geeks will move away from Ubuntu into whatever distro that doesn't force them to use it. But then again, you know, to use your word, here's the thing, that Ubuntu, you can still install, you know, GNOME without the shell. You could still get that customizability, and geeks know how to do that. So, I don't know. It's you know, it makes...
Well, although if you do that, can you still use everything in the Ubuntu repository?
I don't think anything is dependent on Unity. I mean, certainly not yet. All that, as far as I know, what Unity offers is it does offer a few extra APIs, but none of those APIs are in any... All those APIs are extra stuff. Like, you could do extra things on the Unity bar, and they have things called lenses, which you could develop, and those would be, yes, those would only work with Unity if the...
Well, and like, but see, this isn't just a Unity thing, it's a GNOME thing also, because this is with GNOME 3. I'm almost wondering if what's going to happen in the GNOME community is something that historically hasn't happened. There's like a fork in the KDE community. There's a number of people in the KDE community, I'm not one of them, I'm on the KDE 4 side, but there's a fork. There's a number of people in the KDE community that think KDE 3 is better than KDE 4, and they're keeping the KDE 3 project alive. And I'm almost wondering if this isn't going to fork GNOME, where it's like you're going to have GNOME 3, and then you're going to have all these Gnomonites who are like, no, GNOME 2 is so much better than GNOME 3, and we're going to keep GNOME 2 going. Fuck GNOME 3. Everything has to be GNOME 2.
A lot of people have been saying that.
Well,
yeah.
And if
how's KDE nowadays? 4.6.
At least on my system. Very stable, overall fast. There's still some tweaks I wish they'd make to default desktop settings, but the PCLint distro is taking care of that, but they are not done in KDE 4.6. Overall, what it honestly comes down to between KDE 4.6 and the forks of KDE 3 is, do you or don't you like the widget-based nature? Because that is the main difference in KDE 4. Almost everything is entirely widget-based.
Yeah.
It's like, and you either like that, or you think it's everything that's wrong with KDE. I personally like it and find it useful. But it's a galvanizing issue. And now GNOME has one of those with the, I want to customize everything, even if I don't. Versus,
Skype
it's good enough.
2.2 for Linux. Go.
Say that again?
Skype 2.2 for Linux. Go.
Actually, I'm not even sure what version of Skype I'm on.
Before 2.2, this is, you know, whatever it is.
I'm currently still on 2.1, so I'm not saying anything about 2.2 yet. If it's anything like what...
Skype hasn't updated in like a few years, and now they're finally coming out with a new client.
I'm going to have to mess with 2.2 to talk intelligently like this, because I haven't upgraded yet. But if it's anything like what they've done to Windows and Mac, I'm probably going to hate it. Because the UI has gotten more cumbersome over there, and I kind of like that it isn't gotten over cumbersome on Linux. Have you messed with 2.2 yet?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm kind of saving messing for that when I do my reinstall, and I'm going to go distro hopping for a little bit till I settle on something new. I'm kind of thinking about trying out, I'm you know, between trying out Arch, Debian, Linux Mint Debian Edition, and Ubuntu Natty. Those are the four that I kind of want to try. I did try out Crunchbang and a few BSDs and a bunch of different distros, and those were the four that really interested me on something that I would really like to give a chance.
No, and that is what you should do when you're shopping around. You should only just sit down and use them for, not necessarily on your primary system, but on an active system for a week to a month, and just figure out where, like, okay, no, this is going to drive me nuts. I can fix it, but no.
But I mean, I used to be a very big Ubuntu user, and I didn't like Mint that much, because everyone, back then said that it was really just Ubuntu with some parts. And I finally, since a lot of people were saying, oh, Mint's great, you should try Mint, I did try it, and I found out that it really isn't just, Ubuntu with some parts. It really does have its own thing.
Well, and on that note, you should not avoid a distro just because it's a light spin-off of another distro if it's spinning in the direction you want, because that's how a lot of distros start. Rather than going back to learn from scratch and starting with an entirely new base, they go, well, this is 70 to 80% of what we want, but here's the parts we don't like. They're like, okay, we're going to take this and we're going to take that out, and we're gonna fix that to be how we think it should be, and that's how a lot of distros start.
That's true, and that's how Mint started too. Mint version 1 and Mint version 2 really was just green Ubuntu. It really wasn't much more than just a few customizations on Ubuntu, but now they have their own developers which they pay, and they have their own different things, and they have their own certain applications which they make, which is nice. So they really are their own thing now, but they did start out on just a simple customization that some people like.
Well, no, and as the project evolves, that disagreement on, well, this should be like this, it evolves more, and it becomes more and more that this is what we feel it should be. And that process takes 1 to 3 years. But if you like the direction they're taking it, just because they're a minor fork at this point, if they're a strong project with a growing user base, you really do want to take a look at them, because over the next 1 to 3 years, they'll probably become more and more the system you want and fork more and really become something like Mint did. All right. You brought it up when we were talking about it before, but I don't know if we want to talk about it in Linux. It's your call.
Which is what I was thinking about. I mean, I would love to talk about it on a show, but this isn't really Linux,
Yeah. Well, no.
Before, just so everyone knows what we're talking about, we are talking about Bitcoin, which you can Google if you don't know about it, but it doesn't really have anything to do with Linux specifically. That's more of almost a shoot the messenger kind of thing.
I'm almost thinking that, and I'm almost thinking of bringing shoot the messenger. For those of you who don't know, some things are changing here. We're going to be changing the format of PC v Mac a little bit, possibly even changing the title, because as of late it hasn't been PC versus Mac. It's been more the mobile platform wars and some other stuff. And I'm thinking we're going to bring the Tech Babble show back and move the news bits we've been doing in the beginning of PC versus Mac into their own show. And some of those are controversial enough that they really need to be in a shoot the messenger like thing, where they're not actually a debate or information, but exploring something that's really controversial or in depth. And that, like you're saying, is more. It's like. It's going to take a week or two to figure out, and we're talking with everybody, getting everybody's schedule straightened out, but sometime towards the end of April, mid-May, everything will be transitioned over to that. So we're getting it straightened out. Give us time. We can't snap our fingers. We don't have 50 interns.
Watch the show to the end.
Say that again?
I wonder how many people watch this to the end. I mean, this is, right now, an hour and 17 minutes.
Well, which means this is going to be in part 3 or 4. How many people do watch to the end, and how many people in a few weeks are going to go, what happened? I told you, but you didn't watch.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when I look at your views, I see you have your first video gets a significant amount of views, and it goes down.
And then it goes down, yeah. Like there's like this core group of 20 to 50 people that they want to watch it all, and then there's this growing number of people who they'll like watch, I think, half of part 1, and they're like, okay, I'm bored now. and that's one of the things we're wanting to change with the PC v Mac. We're going to like compartmentalize it. Every individual story is going to get its own video, and we'll explore it in depth, but it's going to be its own separate video. And I don't want to have like part 50, because sometimes we cover that many stories, so I have to change the format a little bit to do that.
Yeah. What I'm thinking is that people who do watch it to the very end should post some random comment.
I like that. Those of you who see the end of the last part of the video go, hey, I watched it all, or I'm live from Mars.
That's obvious. It should be something random so that the other people wouldn't really know what they're talking about.
Let's see. Let's come up with something. Live from... if you watch the end of this one, post down there, live from Mars.
Sure. Perfect. Live from Mars.
Hey, that'll work. Post live from Mars if you watch the end of this video. That works.
Awesome. And that will give us a detailed metric.
Exactly.
Thank you if you do.
Yeah. I know some of y'all are like diehards, and I honestly, I have an idea who some of you all are, because you contribute a lot, and we have a lot of private conversations behind the scenes also. Even if you're not co-hosts, I think I have an idea who y'all are. All right, you want to just we should stop it there since we said that. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So, peace all.
Yep.
Live from Mars.
Yep.